The motor and transmission can go in for good. And by good, I mean I'm sure that motor's going to last the summer. But for good this time. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the IzzyFab YouTube channel. You can see we got the truck back. We've been on a bit of a hiatus for a couple weeks. And that's because the truck was out getting dry ice blasted. Like we talked about last video. The truck, as you guys have well seen, was pretty gooey. So Carlo had quite a job ahead of him, and I think he grossly underestimated just how gooey the truck was. Originally, the truck was only supposed to be gone about half a week and use up a tub or two of dry ice. He wound up using 3 full tubs on it, and it took him a couple weeks. So it did take a significant amount of time. That being said, I couldn't be happier with the job he did. I'll show you when we get up on the hoist, but the floor of this truck is literally brand new again. All the goo that was there beforehand is gone. All the goo that was on the chassis is gone. If you guys are familiar in any way, shape, or form with these GM trucks, they use this wax coating on the chassis that's just a miserable thing to get off. And it's gone. It's all dealt with. So what we're going to do this video is I'm going to get the box off of the truck. We're going to prep the whole chassis to be painted. And then also we're going to take all the suspension that's remaining off and have, various things powder coated, painted, whatever they need to be done. I'm going to have all the hardware. We're going to take that back to Carlo at Seacraft Detailing and have him zinc coat it. That yellow zinc like most grade 8 fasteners are coated in. So everything's going to match. It'll all be fresh, it'll all be new. And then going forward, if I replace any hardware and they show up with the yellow zinc, they'll match from here on out. All right, let's get you guys in for a closer look. So you can see this is all as welded factory steel. Super, super cleaned up. Now, obviously we had the bed on when this got blasted. So Carlo wasn't able to get on the top side of the rails, but that's totally fine because about, well, it would have been the first winter that I did not drive this truck. I stripped the entire back half by myself and spray painted it. So aside from this little spot here, which is just crusty, this should just sand up really nice and come off. So that's pretty much the best case scenario in that. Obviously he wasn't able to get the tops of the rails, which is not a problem because thanks to the cage in this unit, this cab is never coming off. So unfortunately that will be like that for the remainder of this truck's life, but it is what it is. Could be much worse. This thing up the rest of the way now, and we'll show you the floor, which is currently my favorite part. Dun 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 dun. Well, bam. Look how clean it is. Remember how oily it was? And gooey? This is all the factory E-coat. And it's dry. I mean, there's the tiniest little bit of residue left, but it's dry, it's clean. It's not gooey. I can quick detail this if I really wanted to. That's all just dust from the blasting. So, same here. I'm so happy with this. You got all up in the rockers and everything. So this thing's like brand new again. Aside from a little bit of cleaning and painting, this is the best case scenario I could have asked for. So I posted a poll on my Instagram stories quite a while ago. Maybe not a poll, but I posted a question, asking what aerosol coating to use. And I was bombarded with answers of Steel It. So I've never heard of it before. Apparently I've been living under a rock because I had, 40 or 50 people message me about it. It's incredibly expensive. It's about 50 bucks Canadian a can. So like 30 odd dollars US. But it has, I guess, stainless steel in it, and it's weldable through the coating. I don't know that I would ever try that, especially with a TIG welder, but comes highly recommended. So I don't know what my exact game plan is, other than I'm going to try and take this thing apart as much as I can. Hey, look at that. That's from when the CV shaft blew apart. That's fun. And that's from when the other one blew apart. Yeah. So I'm going to take out the front suspension, all of it, disassemble the coilovers. The springs are going to go get coated. We're going to clean the shock bodies. The upper mount's going to get coated. The rack's going to come out, get cleaned. Spindles are going to get coated. Brakes are actually painted out of a gun. They're just filthy right now because of the coating, but they are color matched to the truck. So those are going to get cleaned up. This differential, I obviously did not have Carlo blast it because it's not going to be used anymore. So I've got the 4 9-inch to pick up, I hope, this weekend. And I've also been doing some drawing. I made some, I don't know if I'll be able to load this up quick, but I made some anti-roll bar / leaf spring mounts / spring pads, anti-roll bar, shock mount type thing. Well, basically, if you can picture these being as wide as the diff is, obviously they're far too close right now. This is where my cowl tracks are going to bolt on, so we'll have some adjustability there. This will be the new shock mount, which I have these billet shock mounts from Funkhauser race cars to use. So those will bolt into these slotted areas right here. So we've got some adjustability there. And then we'll have a tube that welds to these plates that comes across the diff. And we'll have these mounts attached to that bar. And this will be the anti-roll bar, which will then have these sway bar end link type billet pieces that will then have an adjustable bar that goes up to the notch. There'll be like we're going to remove this cross member here, and then we're going to make a new DOM tube one that goes across the notch. And that's how I'm going to mount the shocks this time. So this will be the third shock setup in the rear. And yeah, so I'm hoping to have these this week and get them coated up, welded up, coated, whatever. Get everything in the truck, be able to make that rear anti-roll bar. Get these billet mounts on, this billet, that billet, all the billet. What else do I have to show you since we've talked last? I drew our mount for the Clearview filter setup. So this is a 3D printed plastic version, obviously, but it's just a proof of concept design that I had. So it's out at Craft Cloud getting 3D printed in China. Hopefully I have it, I don't know, pretty soon. Yeah. Okay, I think we're all caught up. Yeah, all right, teardown time, I guess. I gotta say, I hate doing this, but I'm really glad we're doing it because everything is so bloody gooey. Like, look at that. That's from one CV shaft exploding and, you know, various greases. Control arm's the same. I had drop arms in this thing for a while, but the stock arms have been on it for the majority of the time, so. And yeah. The coilovers are pretty much smoked. These aren't even the ones that I used to use. I actually bought these used when I had the other 2014. So I'm just going to clean these up as best I can. I'm going to have the upper mounts powder coated, the coils powder coated. But the shock bodies are basically done. So we're just going to clean them up as best we can for the time being. And I'll replace them before I start seriously driving this thing again. The majority of the nose is apart. I got to take this brake hose off, obviously, still in the caliper, but for all intents and purposes, the front is totally stripped. So I think the only thing I need to do before I can actually tape off, and I'm gonna kind of do this chassis, I think, in sections. Thought is I could paint a section to start the evening. So say I paint this front cradle area tomorrow night. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to work on this front cradle area while it's drying. But if I paint it, leave it for a day, I should be able to work on it. So theoretically, if I'm assembling this front end or whatever, putting the motor back in, etc., I could paint the next section of frame rail and let it cure for 24 hours while I'm also assembling. So I'm hoping this stuff cures okay. Again, I've never used Steelite before, so this is going to be a learning experience. But it can't look any worse than what it did. So probably tomorrow night will be chassis cleaning, prepping for paint. The motor and transmission can go in for good once this is painted, which is quite exciting. And by good, I mean I'm sure that motor is going to last the summer. But for good this time. I do need to build that turbo drain that we spoke about. So hopefully I can set the motor in there and build this turbo drain while all of this stuff is not there. Worst case, I mean, I can set the header in and the crossover and set the turbo on kind of loosely, easy enough that I can snake that 3/4 stainless tube in there. I'm hoping I can just weld the tab to the line and maybe put, like, I don't know, drill and tab 1032 screws through here, or whether it, you know, wherever it winds up. I can't exactly remember the whole layout with this thing assembled, but I gotta get that turbo drain in. That's a big one before too much shit goes on. The next couple of days are gonna kind of suck with cleaning and prepping and painting. That's absolutely my least favorite thing to do. But again, Carlo gave me a phenomenal head start, so it's got to get worse before it gets better. All right, I will catch you later tonight. Good evening, everyone. We are back again, and she's all stripped. Pardon James's truck. We just put a high rim on this, and I made this charge pipe for him, so it's kind of hanging out. I wound up coming out the other night and just blasting the rest of this thing apart because we had a big snowstorm coming, and I wanted to get this all apart so that James's truck didn't have to go out during the day. And yeah, so truck is clearly very apart. Been slowly picking away at disassembling everything for coating. So that's my pile that's going to get coated. That will be the third and final round of powder coating. So basically I have to get the arms apart still and the coilovers. I am just going to paint these arms. I have found polyurethane bushings for the control arms, but the energy suspension website kind of sucks, and I'm not 100% sure if those bushings are exactly correct. They say they're for 99 to 13, but if you know anything about these trucks, the chassis are the same up to like 19, I think. So I don't want to risk taking those bushings out and the ones I order, the energy ones, being wrong. So I'm just going to paint them for now. We'll clean them up, paint them, and then you know, maybe next winter I'll take them out. Or maybe I'll just order new ones, and I don't know. We'll probably just take these ones out because then, you know, if I order new ones, then they come with ball joints and bushings and all that shit anyway. So, yeah. Anyway, that's where we're at with that. But for tonight, we are going to do a little bit of welding and fitting. I'm putting together an anti-roll bar kit for the truck. I tried to buy 2 different bolt-in kits for these GM trucks, and nobody wants to sell me one, apparently. So I will just make my own. This is a leaf spring truck, and I've got Caltracs to go in it. That's the factory Caltrac bracket, so the just sits on the bottom of the diff. U-bolts go through it. Basically what you're looking at here is the same idea. That's the plate for the U-bolts that sits in the diff. I've added tow hooks to it so I can strap this truck down in the trailer from here instead of having to go up over the axle and squish brake lines and all kinds of other stuff. And then also, I bought these billet shock mounts from Funkhauser Race Cars. So I've made that. So that's obviously in this piece. And then we've just got another piece that I'm going to weld on here, like so. And that's going to give me some adjustability, even though I probably will never need it. It is kind of race car-y and looks sort of cool. We've got adjustable traction bar mounts. Typically, Caltracs work really good, but sometimes you need a bit more bar angle or something like that. So we built some adjustability into that. So basically what you're looking at is that's going to wind up like that, and then that'll attach up to the front of the leaf spring. So yeah, same thing. I have put a little locator tab in here so that they just kind of sit in there. And then obviously I'll need to square it up and weld it. These are going to bolt there, and there will be an 1 3/4 tube that runs across between these two under the pumpkin on the diff. And then these will bolt to that bar, which is a stationary bar. And then inside here will be another 1 3/4 tube, which will have these billet steel link bars welded to it, and it will act as basically a giant sway bar for the rear. So if you're unfamiliar with what an anti-roll bar is, it's effectively the same idea as a sway bar, just meant for drag racing. So typically they have 0 give, whereas a sway bar does have a bit of give to it and is rubber mounted and whatever. This one, these are Delrin bushings, and then we will make off of here some adjustable arms that go up to a tube that will be welded across the top of the notches, or not the very top, but across the notches in between. With the powder coat order, I'm hoping to get these assembled and sent with that order. I got to come up with some 1 3/4 tube. Hoping to find some 1 3/4 chromoly so we can keep it light. Not that this thing is weight conscious, but if we can keep as much weight out of it as possible, I guess that is a good thing, question mark. So I'm gonna start cleaning all this shit, and then we'll start welding. We have good news, and we have some maybe not good news. I pulled a bit of a dummy, and I tried to fix this, but I don't know if you can see or not. But anyway, this is tapered slightly, and there's no real fixing it right now, so I'll have to have Chris cut me a couple more tabs. I got one welded up. It looks really good. The axle will obviously sit on here. This is the right side, or the passenger side. This will be the traction bar. This will be that 1 3/4 tube I was mentioning. So if you can picture this other one here, like so, there'll be a tube that goes across there. Is that gonna stand up? Yep. So there'll be a tube that goes across there that has another tube with that little aluminum guy that I showed you earlier, one on either side. And then we'll have the anti-roll bar mounted to that. Adjustable shock mount. I'm going to MIG weld this joint because this is 5/16 plate, both of these. So I'll MIG weld it, and then I'll blend these into a nice sharp corner. Like on these chassis rails here, it'll look something like that. And that will be the end of that one. So I have to get a few other things cut for that chassis anyway. So I'm just gonna have these recut. I could cut this weld and fix it probably, but it's just easier and far less time consuming to have them recut. Pretty happy with this so far. It's nice to see more things coming to fruition that I dreamed up in my brain. So everything's serviceable and neat and tidy, and we got a nice toe loop there. So pretty happy with this. Pretty heavy duty. Should be plenty strong. And is going to give us lots of adjustability for traction bar angle, shock height. You know, yeah, pretty happy with it. So I think I'm going to end this video off here. Plan for the next one is hopefully sending James's truck home this week. And then we're going to try aggressively to get this chassis painted and start getting stuff back on, because we have a ton of stuff laying around that I'm just kind of sick of looking at. The shop is absolutely a disaster compared to what it normally is, so it'd be nice to start getting some of these things assembled along with getting this thing assembled so that we can get a couple cars sort of de-exploded. So yeah,